Oh my God, I hate writing my own resume. I hear that over and over and over from my clients and other people that I help in terms of improving their resume or sometimes just scrapping it and starting from scratch to create something new. I'm Anne Marie Segal. I'm an executive coach and resume writer. I've been doing this for 10 years, and before that, I was an attorney for 15 years. I have to admit, I used to hate writing my own resume as well. I get it. I lived through it. It's cringy. Like, I don't want to try to brag about myself, and I don't even know what to say. Like, what do I even put? And how do I make it look? What's the standard today? And, so many questions. I'm not going to be able to cover everything today, but I do want to back up and give you some big picture thoughts. And this video, like others in this series, Making Your Comeback, are really geared towards federal employees and employees of nonprofits and others who've been affected by the layoffs of spring 2025. But of course, many of these messages that I'm conveying here are universally applicable. Um, so the first thing I would say in terms of a resume is to back away from it. And you might have heard this in other videos in this series. Um, Back away from yourself and your own experience and what you've lived. Give yourself some breathing room. Think about how you might be perceived by someone who's never met you, who doesn't understand the specifics of your role, maybe even, excuse me, maybe even the specifics of your industry. The acronyms don't work for them, most likely. Just assume that your reader is educated, but not necessarily privy to the inside workings of what you've done in the past, and try to present it to them and be reading it yourself as if you were coming to it for the first time. So that's the first piece of advice I would give. Um, that means probably that you don't want to just be tweaking little things that you've done before. Start with a blank page. Be thinking about what are the big picture items that I need to cover? What are the things, and I've talked about transferable skills and other things in other videos in the series. What is it that I want my audience, as I've defined them, to know about me? Um, that's the first thing. You can then match that up with what you don't have to completely scrap your resume. You could match that up with what you've already got on the page. But be thinking first about what is the actual thing I'm trying to convey. That being said, there's the whole other side of the picture, which is the applicant tracking software system. You may have encountered this before, you may not. This is the idea of keywords. So what's a keyword? A keyword on your resume is something that's likely to show up in the job description. It's likely to show up in terms of them saying, is what we're looking for a match for what you are? Do the words match? It's an algorithmic matching. It's not a person reading your resume. It's a machine reading your resume, saying, are they even in the ballpark? And the way you show that you're in the ballpark is that you use the same type of words, the same type of language that you would find in a job description. If one exists, you're ahead of the game. If not, you'll have to do some research and figure that out. But how do I describe myself in a way that I sound like what they're looking for, so I even get that first pass of being put to a human? Because often, unfortunately, that is the case. We're being screened first by matching that up. Um, Beyond that, the next thing you want to really be thinking about in terms of your resume, and these aren't necessarily in order, but a next thing is accomplishments. Where did I move the ball? If I can use metrics, that's great. I did 600 plus of something, might be really useful. It might be 24 plus, and it might be how many people were on your team or how many deals you got done, or so many ways that metrics could be relevant. It could be in terms of revenues generated, for example. That's not applicable to everyone in every job. Obviously, if it's applicable to you, that's the top line that many people are looking for. The bottom line being, where did I um, contain costs, or how did I manage downside risk? Meaning, how did I manage the risks essentially? How did I make the company or organization or the department of the government or whatever in a better position? Um, so if you can use metrics, that's often really helpful. People respond to metrics. It helps tell the story. But don't use metrics if they're not relevant. And that's something that you'll get a sixth sense for. The more you have people read your resume, the more you think about your role in a deeper way. Like, what did I actually do? What actually mattered from all the stuff I did? I showed up every day, and then what? You also want to be thinking about, and I talked about this a bit already, but and also in another video, your target audience, like what matters to them? How can I filter what I've done and present it in a way that makes sense to them? This doesn't mean that you're making something up, but it means that you're choosing to emphasize those aspects of your career story that are relevant to your target audience. Another thing that's very important in your resume is to have it be clean and easy to read. Not trying to use 9.5 font and shove everything on a page and make the person who's reading it try to figure out what's relevant to them, but to really present the information in a way that makes it that they want to keep reading, that they're going to be interested in what you're saying, that the visual document itself, which we as human beings, as animals, we respond to what we see, right? I mean, imagine you've got a forest and there's a deer moving. You're in my scenario here, a dog. I have a dog, so he can smell them and then he can see them, and he notices when they're moving, and when there's nothing moving in the landscape, he doesn't perk up. Same kind of idea. I know it sounds like a metaphor that's not going to make sense, but it is. What you want is to be able to bring out those pieces of that forest of your career, the ones that are going to bring people's attention to you, the ones that are going to make them say, "Ah, okay, now this makes sense. This is something I've been on the hunt for, looking for, and now I've found it." So these are some of the big pieces of resume writing. I'll probably make a second part of this video as I review what I've said and think about what else I could say to help you along in this process. But these are some of the major building blocks of creating a resume for your next role.